Hello and welcome to the second of 4 Longines HKIR countdown shows here. The Turf World Championships coming up on Sunday at Sharton, and what a spectacle it will be. Tom Wood here with Graham Cunningham. Graham, off the back of what was a sensational night at Happy Valley last night for the Longines International Jockeys Championship, where Zach Purton prevailed, and with a couple of legs to go, it was still anybody's go, really.
Yeah, Tom, it's great to be here. A tremendous week's racing in prospect. It was a spectacular night last night. You're absolutely right. It was also a bit of a surreal night because there were hardly any racegoers. Were behind closed doors pretty fully, only owners and occasional family members. So it was a very unusual experience. We're normally used to almost 20,000 people here, beer garden rocking. So it was a very strange experience. But I suppose sport all over the world has been like that for 9-10 months now. I want to ask you a question before we get rolling today. You were the caller here last night, up on high. That must be a very unusual experience. How does it affect your night's work to have hardly a soul or a sound around?
Well, you certainly notice it, Graham, with no one down there. Normally there's a real sort of amphitheatre down there in the beer garden when you've got 20 or 22,000 down there. It certainly was different last night. It was my second time calling the IJC, and it was noticeably different. Very quiet, very eerie. A lot of security around, a lot of broadcast staff, and not much else. But it was still a tremendous night to be part of. I felt like you had to sort of just add that little bit extra. Not that you hear the PA system here like you would around other jurisdictions in the world, but just felt you had to add that bit of extra oomph for those who couldn't be here that were taking in the telecast.
Yeah, these big sports have become effectively made for TV events nowadays. So no pressure on the broadcasters. And never any pressure on Zach Purton. He's ice cold, and he had a tremendous night last night. Before we have a look at the highlights, we should mention the best supporting actors and actress, because Alexi Bedell, Holly Doyle, and of course Joe Moreira all made a big impression as well last night.
Come here tonight, and they weren't the best rides in the race, but the barriers give them a chance to be competitive, and I just needed a little bit of luck, and fortunately things went my way, especially when it's in a competition as prestigious as this and there's so much on the line. It certainly feels nice to have won it again, and it's another moment that I'll cherish.
Awesome stuff there from Zach Purton last night, not only knocking off the 2020 IJC, but also bringing up 1,200 winners in the process, Graham.
Yeah, he's a guy who keeps a very beady eye on record, and there's one in the offing for this weekend. There are two guys who've ridden 8 Longines HKIR winners in history. JEROME is one, Zach Purton is another. A win for Exultant, or one of Zach's other 2 mounts, would make him the sole possessor of the record for number of IR winners.
It certainly would, so we'll come back to that a little bit later on the show. Ed Sadler, he's our roving reporter. He's been out and about on duty covering all the stories during the week. Let's hear what Ed has heard from all the connections, the key players over the last 24 hours or so.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Graham. And before I get to track work, Tom, terrific calling last night at the IJC on what was a really enjoyable, competitive night's racing. You did a great job. So to track work today, and the main takeaway for me came from the 2 Japanese horses we got to see on the turf track. I was really taken by the way the Tower of London stretched out in his piece of work. He hasn't raced for quite a while. He goes into this race fresh, the Hong Kong Sprint. He's going to be ridden by William Buick. William actually rode him in Japan a couple of years ago, so on Sunday he's going to be renewing an old acquaintance.
I think he's fit, he's ready to go. I wouldn't have any doubts about that. I think this morning was his final serious piece. And I think the whole idea behind it was to put him spot on for Sunday.
And when you look at the field, the Hong Kong sprinters have a strong record in this race. What do you make of Tower of London Tapes?
I think he has a good chance. It's obviously it's a tough race. I mean, you've got the other Japanese runner down and Smash, and obviously the local horse Hot King Prawn, who's obviously going to be a hard horse to beat on home ground, and obviously Classic Legend as well. So it's a top class sprint as you would expect.
We also saw Winbright out on the track, the defending Hong Kong Cup champion from last season. I caught up with his jockey, Masami Matsuoka, and I asked him in English, can you win the Hong Kong Cup again? He answered in English, I hope so. But then in Japanese, here was his more extended response on the horse's hopes.
馬の状態はそうですね。ちょっと輸送でね。
Last challenge was he was anxious about his body weight for the transportation, whether he will lose the weight or not. But this time he transported well, but the body weight was not going to be less. So it was a little bit concerned of him. He was thinking about. He assumed that it will be just a little bit less for the transportation, but this time it is level off to this time.
That is good news. Do you think he can win the Hong Kong Cup again, Matsuoka-san?
また香港カップ今年も勝てると思いますか?
I hope so.
Winbright, of course, is signing off from his racing career on Sunday in the Hong Kong Cup. So best of luck to his connections as he hopes to go out on a high. He is 2 from 2 here in Hong Kong. From the track here this morning, the news then moves on to the barrier draw in the parade ring later on. And the draw has the most important significance for the sprint. A big field of 14 to line up. And as we know, guys, the run to the first turn from the 1,200 metre start point is not that long. So, Graham, Tom, from this morning's draw for the sprint, who are the winners and losers?
It's an all-important question, Graham. Who are the winners and losers from the sprint barrier draw? I tend to think Classic Legend's a loser from gate number 1 in terms of the draw that he's been able to pick up there.
I think he
Not
is.
Ideal, is it?
I think he is, because he's likely to get back anyway. But if you're drawn 1 on a hold-up horse, your rivals roll across you and you tend to be hemmed in on the inside for significant chunk of the race. So traffic could be an issue for Vincent Ho and Classic Legend. We'll talk about him in a little more depth in a minute, but really beautiful footage of the Winbright saga at Sha Tin. 2 Group 1 wins here, really colourful connections. Terrible job for Edward Sadler with his lack of Japanese there, but we'll forgive him that one. He's working very hard. I can't go with him myself, Tom Winbright. What about you?
I'm inclined to put him in because he does seem to grow another leg when he comes to Hong Kong, does he? He's 2 from 2. They seem to be able to get the horse to peak at the right time.
I get that completely, but his recent form is a little bit, it's patchy.
It is patchy.
He's been lightly raced, and I look back on last year's Hong Kong Cup. I don't want to knock him anyway, but I think Magic Wand would have beaten him with a clear shot that day, and Magic Wand is not as good as Magical. I don't think she's good as the likes of Danon Premium, etc. So all the best. It's a shot to nothing in a way, and as you say, the key point for him is that when he gets to Sha Tin, he tends to blossom.
So we're highlighting one of the big races coming up on Sunday afternoon at Sha Tin. The race we're focusing on in today is the Hong Kong Sprint over the 1,200 metres. Let's have a look at the field for the contest. A terrific lineup of gallopers as well. Just the one Group 1 winner in the race, that is Tower of London. But Classic Legend comes into this from barrier number 1. The only time he's been in barrier number 1 was in the Golden Eagle, and he was beaten. Hot King Prawn there, he's been round in all the big dances. He's looking for that elusive Group 1 victory. Voyage Warrior, we know, as a Group 2 winner. Computer Patch out of gate number 11. Christophe Sumion picks up the ride there. Big Party, the old boy Jolly Banner going around. Zach Purton's picked up the ride on Amazing Star with the defection of the Singaporean Inferno. And you've got Stronger down the bottom there as well for Pierre Charles Boudot out of gate number 4. So just the one Group 1 winner in the race, Graham, that is Tower of London. I've seen him down at the track this morning. He looks like he's got a bit of a winter coat, but from what we saw of him this morning at the track, he looked in fine fiddle.
Yeah, I'm intrigued by these 2 Japanese sprinters, but not intrigued enough to suggest that I can be really confident. Tower of London has had a pretty long break. Dan on Smash, I think, might be the better of the Japanese. They've both drawn pretty high. I'm not really going to hold that too much against them. I'm just not sure they're quite good enough. Dan on Smash over the pair, over Tower of London. But I think the key horse has to be Classic Legend. And there's no room for fence sitting with a horse like Classic Legend. It's either he's the best sprinter in the world on official figures, and if he produces his best, he'll be too good. That's a perfectly viable line of reasoning. But it's not the full story.
No.
He peaked in a massive way when he won the Everest in runaway style. But since then, his preparation has been very rare, very unusual for a top-line horse. He went straight into quarantine, having left his long-time trainer, Les Bridge in Australia. A couple of weeks quarantine down there, long flight to Hong Kong, couple of weeks quarantine in Hong Kong, joins a new trainer, Casper Founds, who knows plenty about him, but there is an element of feel your way with any new horse in the barn. A trial that was, well, let me ask you, I thought it was okay, no better than that for my money.
He wasn't a gun out of the gates. We've got some footage of the trial as well. He wasn't a gun out of the gates. He sort of sat just in behind them. Vincent Ho was towards the outside rail at Chartres and then sort of came across to the middle part of the track to try and get off heels. What you missed on that list of things that he's had to do over the last wee while is that he's been sedated somewhat to have his branding done. He's been inoculated as well. So he's had all that go on. Les Bridge would have had him peaking at the time for the Everest. Casper's got to try and get him up again. The trial certainly had plenty of tongues wagging. I thought it was just slightly above par.
Yeah, I think it'd be fascinating to see what the market makes of Classic Legend.
I think it'll come up really short.
Do you?
Yeah, I do.
I think people might be content to take a chance and think that, you know, his preparation may leave him vulnerable. I'd be surprised if he's not around about 2.7, 2.8. You think he might be shorter than that?
Well, I reckon a lot of the spruiking on social media and whatnot from all his fans in Australia sort of suggests he might even come up sort of 1.9 even money.
I said there's no room for sitting on the fence. I'll get off and say I'm cautious. I am cautious about the draw, but most of all the preparation. What about you?
Yeah, if he comes up a really short price, I think sort of anything under 250 is certainly taking unders just with the preparation he's had. But Casper Founds has admitted in the last week since he had that gallop, I think Tuesday morning.
Turned the corner.
Yeah, he's turned the corner. He's come on since then. He's improved. And
the problem is, Tom, there was a corner to turn.
Exactly.
And you don't want corners to turn with 2.5 chances ahead of a big run. It'd be great. If he does a Chautauqua and really bolts up, then the world and Hong Kong racing has a new, genuine, top-notch sprinter. So good luck to him, but I do have slight reservations myself. What about the rest of them?
Well, the rest of them, well, it's hard to leave out Hot King Prawn. He was terrific last time out in the Jockey Club sprint, sat wide and was still able to fend them off on that occasion. He takes on a lot of his rivals. Computer Patch was second in that race. Ratton was third in it. But I think in a race like this amongst the local brigade, he is the benchmark.
He is a tremendous horse. He's a really unusual horse by sprinting standards. We always associate sprinters with being high-mettled, high energy, on the toes in the paddock, ready to roll. You watch Hot King Prawn in the paddock, and it's like watching an old steeplechaser go around. He's super relaxed. He saves every ounce of energy for when it matters most. That's what makes him a super consistent, reliable horse. Just caught in the final few strides in this race 12 months ago by his stablemate Beat the Clock. I'd say he's probably the same horse 12 months on. Based on that Jockey Club sprint win, he is highly likely to run an absolute screamer again. And if Classic Legend doesn't deliver his A game, then Hot King Prawn should be poised.
Legend. What about a horse like Computer Patch? He keeps on improving. Of course, he demolished a very small field down the straight, over 1,000 metres. And, well, Carristeton was on board him, but Connections have opted for a change, and Sumion gets on.
Yeah, that's a tough break for Carris. But I think, if you'll pardon the pun, Connections have clocked the clock. He's gone really hard on a strongly run races the last two times, Computer Patch. Now, Tony Cruz says he's a sprinter. He's going to go forward again. I like his chances. I think if you like Hot King Prawn, you have to like Computer Patch. He is lower mileage than most of these rivals. I think he's still improving, not by leaps and bounds, but I think he belongs at this level now. And I think those two horses, for mine, Hot King Prawn and Computer Patch, are serious contenders. There are horses you could make a case for from in behind in the Jockey Club sprint. Ratton has come home strongly on his last couple of runs. Wishful Thinker can do it when he's in the mood. But I don't particularly like those horses who come and pick up pieces late in strongly run races. To my mind, and I think the clock backs this up, Hot King Prawn and Computer Patch are just probably the best of that bunch.
So we touched on that Zach Purton has lost the ride on Inferno with the horse coming out during the week, but he does pick up the ride on Amazing Star, and he's been talking about HKIR past and present with Ed Sadler.
Zach, thanks for your time this morning. You're on fatherly duties, I see.
Yeah, it never ends, especially at the moment when they're off school, but it's good to bring him over and get him out of the house for a bit.
Very good to have Cash here as well too then. Now let's look back at your time in the international races. You've been part of it for 13 years, but am I right in saying the first international day you were here, you only won right on the day?
I did. It was in the last race as well, and it had 118 pounds for Andy Lung and started 50 to 1. I might have been better off sitting upstairs at the buffet than sitting in the sauna all day to ride that horse, but things have obviously got better since then, and thankfully so.
Do you have to pinch yourself with how far you've come in that period of time?
Yeah, of course, to look back and see all the achievements I've been able to do here and the things I've ticked off. You know, it is a bit like that for sure.
So when you look back at those wins then, starting off with Ambitious Dragon and then more recently to Exultant, Beauty Generation, what are the ones that mean the most to you?
Well, your first one's always special. It gets you going and gives people confidence in being able to give you the decent quality rides going forward. So he certainly helped me there. Took a great deal of satisfaction out of Aero Velocity and winning at such an old age after the setbacks he had had as well. So, you know, that was nice. Time Warp to complete the set was great. And, you know, they've all been fantastic, but, you know, they're probably the ones that stick out the most. And you know, we can't forget about how dominant Beauty Generation was the last time he won as well. So there's a lot of great memories, and hopefully I've got a few more ahead of me.
Let's talk about one of your better hopes then, Exultant. Can he win the Vase again?
I hope so. He may not be going as good this season as he was last season going into it, but he's a quality horse, and he's had some genuine excuses in the way the races have been run at strong speeds when he hasn't quite been fit. So this small field with, you know, the lack of pressure in the race, hopefully we can get some easier sectionals. He's now fit, he's ready. He always runs well in this race, and I'm looking forward to riding him.
And what about Beauty Generation? Can the old boy fire one more time?
Well, I hope so. I certainly believe he's still got it in him. It's just a matter of him mentally wanting to be able to do it. Physically, he looks great, and he's moving well. He feels good. There's nothing wrong with his action. Just as an older horse, he hasn't really wanted to get into the fight that he used to love getting into. And let's just hope that he's got that one more big run in him.
Do you think that bit of freshness will help him?
Yeah, I think it will. And that's specifically why his program's been geared towards getting into this race when he's fresh, and let's just hope that that's the key.
And just a final one, you're one of the elder statesmen in the jockeys room these days. You've been here for 13 years, but 2020 is a unique year amongst those 13 years. How's the build up to this year's international meeting been for you?
Yeah, it's certainly more of a sombre mood. One thing I really enjoy about this week is everyone from all different corners of the globe being able to come here. You get to catch up with all your friends, and there's a real buzz and a vibe to the place. And you know, as you said, as 2020 has been, it's a lot quieter. It's a little bit more dull, but at the end of the day, we've still got 2 great race meetings coming up, and the horses are here, the prize money's still on offer, and there's still a job to be done.
I can see Cash is getting a bit restless, so I'll let you go, Zach. Thank you very much for your time, and let's hope that you can add to your HKIR record on Sunday.
Thanks, Edward.
Terrific to hear from Zach Purton, the leading jockey here in Hong Kong, defending champion and IJC winner from Wednesday night. And well, he's got a book of 9 rides coming up on Sunday, Graham. The only race he misses out on is the Cup.
And I think, in fact, I'm pretty sure it's the first time he's missed an IR race in 5 years. Rides in those races are hard to find, but he's been very busy. It's the first time he'll watch an IR race from the weighing room on TV in 5 years. But he's got 1 ace in the pack this weekend, Exultant, he touched on. Is he exactly the same horse he used to be? Some people are doubting it. I think it's early days to be writing him off. That horse should be pretty much at his peak this weekend, and he's got 1 serious rival to beat in Mogul for Aidan O'Brien. I think he's bound to go extremely close.
Sort of top 5 material?
Yeah, he's got tons of speed, got a good draw, top quality jockey on board, and it's a very open race behind the first couple in the market. But no, Purton got a real boost last night from the IJC. He's got a great deal to do if he's going to win his jockey's title again, but he won't be worrying too much about that if Exultant wins.
No, he certainly won't be. So could become the most jockey here in Hong Kong in terms of IR races, currently equal on 8 at the moment with Gerald Mosse. A man who's got a significant ride in the $28 million Hong Kong Cup is Ryan Moore with the Magical, the top quality mare. 7 Group 1s, looking to add 8 to her tally.
Yeah, she's trying to go ahead of some wonderful horses. Minding won 7 Group 1s for Aidan O'Brien. A world-class miler, Rock of Gibraltar, did likewise. And Superstar Stayer, Yates, also won 7. Magical has 7 so far. It could be 8 this weekend. And listen to Aidan O'Brien when he talks about this filly. His language tells you all you need to know about what he thinks about her.
She was on a break and Jamie kept saying that, listen, this filly is physically, like, after doing unbelievable. And then Patrick Murphy, who rides her out, started back doing a little bit before she was to go to Coolmore. He started saying the same, like, she's moving brilliant, physically, mentally, everything is brilliant. And we spoke to the lads then and they made the decision, listen, we should give her another chance. Anything from mile and a quarter, mile and a half, all types of ground, and loves racing. Like, things always haven't worked for her in races, but she's always turned up and always ran great races, you know. So listen, she's an amazing filly for everybody to have, and like, we're delighted that the lads made the decision to keep her. It's right up at the very top. It's one of our big standout races, and it's one of those races that can stand with any race all over the world. We knew it was going to be an absolute brawl. The ARC winner was in it, and we had Japan in it, and Guyette was there, and like, we were hoping that they were all going to come and run. And I really mean that, you know, because it was important for the race. We just felt that we were hoping Guyette would come, he would go a good gallop, and we would follow him. And she's one of these, like, teak tough, like, made out of absolute steel. Like, all she wanted was a real good horse to take her and to drag her. It was a matter of which one was going to crack the first, really. And obviously when you get a filly like that at that age and that stage of their career, like, when the I suppose going gets very tough and they start mauling each other, they don't usually crack, and that came out the way with her. She was not going to give in. Like, it was one of those special days, really. Well, Ascot with bad ground and messy race, slow pace. Went to America, the same thing, no pace, hacking. She has to be at a high tempo for a long time before she really clicks in. Even though she was beaten twice, we were very happy with the filly in her 2 runs, and we're very happy with her sense. Yeah, sure, listen, it would be incredible, and listen, obviously it's a very tough race. No horse would deserve it more than her. She's very few races she has ran in other than Group 1s, and she has travelled, she's danced every beat. Privileged for us to have her, and every day she runs is a great day for us, really.
Wonderful mare, Magical, and a special guest on tomorrow's Longines HKIR Countdown show. He'll be zooming in, Aidan O'Brien. That'll be a real treat, Graham.
It is one of the highlights of the week, and one of the highlights of the week, clearly, his 3 runners on Sunday, but especially Magical, because those top quality flat horses who stay around and travel are rare, and you have to enjoy them. So there won't be too many more dancers for Magical. I'd love to see her win, and of course she's capable of winning. Her rating tells you that, her record tells you that. But interesting to pick out a few key words there. Irish Champion Stakes. We knew it was going to be an absolute brawl. They were mauling each other. She had a very hard race. She went to Ascot and gave it all. Wasn't quite good enough on soft ground. She went to America and it was a tactical race. Hard at work a good way out. Battled on well. Not quite quick enough against a budding star in Tarnawa. Highland Reel was the male equivalent of this mare in many ways, and he had hard races. He went to the Arc and he went to the Breeders' Cup and came on here and still delivered. It can be done, but it's not a gimme when a horse has had such a busy schedule.
I was about to ask quickly about Highland Reel because Aidan has brought him here, and he's a 2-time winner of the Vase. Is this the best horse Aidan has brought here since Highland Reel, do you think?
Yeah, I think it is. I have to work through the records, but I think it probably is. And I mean, she has the sex allowance as well. She's looked perky and well in her fairly gentle exercise on the all-weather track this week. Interesting to see what she does over the next couple of days. I wish her every success. It would be a tremendous way for Ryan Moore to end the year. It's been a very sort of patchy year for Ryan. When you're the most travelled jockey in the world, 2020 and a pandemic is going to hinder your progress. So he's got a great shot at ending the season on a massive high, but I do think there are serious dangers in the Hong Kong Cup, and we'll touch on those over the next day or two.
Yeah, certainly there are other European challenges in the race. We caught up with, well, Ed Sadler caught up with the trainer of Scaletti coming into the weekend's meeting. That is Jerome Redinier.
Thank you much for your time. How have your two horses settled in here?
Yeah, no, we're very happy. They've been traveling really well. They're about the same weight as when they left, so all seems to be good. Just Royal Julius has a little white blood cell count a little high, so we've been quite easy on him for the past few days, but now he's back to normal, so tomorrow he'll be probably cantering away. Scaletti has done his first piece of canter this morning, and he was pretty nice and relaxed on the track. He's ready to go. He's done all his fast work at home, and he's just here to just see what it's like. And he's a horse that we've been doing a lot of work mentally, because he can be a bit anxious. So he just needs to be relaxed and happy. And once you keep him happy, you have the horse on top of his shape.
Let's expand upon Scaletti then. A winner of 12 from 16. That's a terrific record he boasts.
Yeah, no, I know. He has been starting from really low level down the provincial tracks in France, and he has been gradually going up and up. He's been winning some Class 2s in Paris after winning a listed race in Vichy, a Group 3 in Deauville, and then a Group 2 last year in Longchamp, and another Group 2 in Rome. So he did end up the right way. And this year, with the COVID and the lockdown in France, we haven't been able to race him during 2 months. And he hasn't been able to come back before May on firm ground, and he was very keen. And 6 or 7 months without racing, we haven't been able to prep him the right way because he was too fresh, and he's been pulling hard for his comeback. So we've been racing him over 1 mile for his first 2 starts of the year, just to make sure he was not going to pull too hard. And even though he was a bit keen on his 2 first starts, but after back to 1.25 miles, he has been beating the future ARC winner Satsas. And he's been winning the Prix Dollar for the second time, and for the first try at the Group 1 level, he's been, putting a big performance, finishing second to Adabe and beating Magical. But that was on quite sticky ground. And on Sunday, that will be a different scenario. He'll be back on good ground, but he's been winning a 1 mile straight Group 3 in Deauville on really firm ground. And he raced, I think, in 1:35 over 1 mile straight. So that was a very good performance too. So we're very confident with him, as he's a really good horse, and he never disappoints you.
So from your point of view, as his trainer, then you're confident that he can race well on firmer conditions here in Hong Kong?
No, I think so, yeah. You just need a race with enough pace, so he won't be pulling. So I think Magical will be putting a lot of pressure on the Japanese filly if she goes in front. So it should be a proper race with a decent pace. So I think he'll be happy to wait and try to use his turn of foot to finish the race quite the way he likes to do it.
He's an up-and-coming young trainer, Jerome, isn't he? Only 35 years of age, come through the Godolphin Flying Start program, and took on a task as a bloodstock agent, now a trainer. And
80-something winners in France, in the top 10 in the table. Scaletti's interesting. I don't think people will go mad on him in the market here. It's just a question of whether he handles fast ground. If he does, he's a dangerous horse.
He's got a terrific win record. I don't think he's just a wet track horse, because he is 1 for 1 on a firm, good track.
Yeah.
So I don't think he's just a wet horse, and he's been working well, and I agree, he flies under the radar.
Yeah, he adds a lot of value to that race, and although he's got a lot of form on soft ground, when you watch his races, Tom, he's a powerful traveller. He jumps into the bridle, and as the trainer suggests, he's not short of speed, so keep a close eye on Scaletti this weekend.
As we wrap things up, is it the Cup? Is it a contest between Magical and Furore?
No, absolutely not. Keep a very close eye on the Japanese, and not win bright. Dan on Premium is, I won't say flying under the radar. I think he'll be well found in the market. I have a high regard for that horse. I think he looks terrific. I think everything is set up, ground, trip, the campaign he's had, a light one. I think everything is set fair for him to run a huge race. All the best to Magical and Connections. That Ballydor presence adds a huge amount to this weekend. But as we saw last year, Tom, Japan, when they come to IR, they come loaded.
Yep, the land of the rising sun. They were dominant here last year for the 2019 HKIR. That wraps up our second Longines HKIR countdown show. Graham will be back again tomorrow to preview the next of the feature races coming up on Sunday at Sharton. Aidan O'Brien will be zooming in as a special guest on the show tomorrow as well. Thanks for your company. We look forward to seeing you again tomorrow.